Sensex at its inception in 1979 now would have made 1,48,000 as of February 2011. And that's a phenomenal compounded annual rate of growth, 16.9% over the last 32 years. This is the kind of opportunity that is created by equity investment due to enhanced equity participation of Indian households through channels such as life insurance and mutual fund. Domestic institutional investors have started to become an important force. All of these seem so complex and looks like we're missing a part of the jigsaw puzzle, but I'm happy today it is not me who has the responsibility of unlocking the code. It is Sanjeev and Ramana Krishnan who will break the code. So with the tectonic rise in income levels and high net worth individuals contracting to around 1,83,000 as on date, India as a country is slowly realizing the necessity of taking expert advice for creation of financial portfolios. With a meager 1,400 certified financial planner against an estimated market demand of 50,000, supply is clearly playing second fiddle to demand. With an exploding middle class population touted to reach at 50% by 2020, favorable demographic dividend, 70% of Indian population is under 35 years of age, higher disposable income, growing per capita income, tails up on domestic consumption. India consumes 70% of what India produces, consumption-driven country whereas China is export-driven. Each of this will continue to hold its own. Financial planning through a certified financial planner becomes imperative, inevitable and augmented. Certified financial planning is a progressive career and can catapult professionals to vertical movement within or outside of any financial organization or in a functional role. State Bank of India, Revenue and ICICI banks are clearly creating a mandate and encouraging their employees to undertake a certification and sponsoring both the tuition fees as well as the certification fee. This is the second event we are having for careers in financial planning. Joint association with St. Joseph and Financial Planning Standard Board of India. We did one month back in Bangalore. Subsequently, we will do one more at Hyderabad and Cochin as a month progresses. The theme behind formulating this event is to sensitize each one of you and broaden your vistas to learning of different career opportunities within the framework of finance and accounts. A galaxy of stars have come down to your college to enlighten you, and I'm glad it is their who speaking and not me. So we have two qualified certified financial planners, Sanjeev Kumar and Ramana Krishnan. We also have Mr. Ravi Raman, IIT Chennai and IIM Calcutta. So the best people to have with us, and I hope all of you today take away a lot of learning, listen patiently, and please ask questions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. I request Mr. Vidya Balasubramaniam to offer a token of thanks. Before we move on to the program, now we'll be moving into the refreshments. So there will be a 10-minute break. After the tea, we'll be back for the talk. Krishna, B.Tech CFP. Ramana Krishna is an engineer who has in his 10 years experience in the life insurance space working for companies like ING Vysya Life, MetLife and Max New York Life. He currently manages the financial planning for Toyota Shushu insurance brokers and oversees the Toyota Group initiatives in this area. Mr. Ramana has completed his CFP in 2008, certified personal financial advisor 2011, and is qualified as an agency builder in the year 2009 and further as a mentor in 2010 under the PPM program administered by the Kindred Brothers International. Mr. Ramana uses his post-work time in supporting victims of mis-selling in life insurance and ensuring their case is represented properly. I call upon you, sir, to give your talk.
I think that's very important, and that will set the perspective right, because a lot of what I'm going to say, you'll have to see in the context of what he has already spoken on this. Now, what Mr. Raman has spoken is an absolute unbiased approach He's used a very unbiased approach to the role and the career opportunities for a financial planner at the moment in the country. Now what I am going to give you all is a slightly biased account, but I will try my best to be fair and ethical to you all. But what I'm trying to do is the bias that I have for this profession, I will try my best to ensure that that bias is used to open up the opportunities little more. That is, I show you the opportunities little more because many of them will come to you in a few years' time. If you're evaluating a career, any career for that matter, you should know what it is today. Very important to know what it is today and what it holds for tomorrow. That also may play a role in your decisions. The reason I took up a CFP was because I was selling products basically. I was in a life insurance company doing well. Successful because a lot of sales were happening. So that was called as a successful person. And I started realizing that there is a certain feel in my customers that they're not too happy. There is something that is causing some amount of distress among my customers. I actually then looked into myself and said, am I explaining whatever product I have? Am I explaining it properly? I then realized, yes, I'm being ethical. That is something that I've always believed in. So I'm explaining my products, everything. I'm laying it there as it is. But still there is a certain amount of distress. Because what is happening is, a lot of people come back and say, your product is fine, it has not helped me. You have done your job and you've kept yourself very safe that you explain your product. There's nothing that you have not lied to me. But beyond that, I have not been helped. That's when I thought, what could I do now? So maybe we have to study the person to whom we are selling this. Not just the product that we have. We have to study the person. That's when I started studying for the CFP and I took it very seriously and I actually did this. And after taking CFP and the journey continues, there is something that I have realized. There is a challenge in advising also. And that is some of the challenges of advising, that is what makes me believe that you need some kind of a certification in this area. If you were to, I saw the hands that were raised when Mr. Raman asked you how many of you are active on Facebook. Now, my friends actually tell me that I've been using Facebook for nearly 2 years. I spend at least an hour on Facebook every day. I can't help it, it's an addiction. My friends have come together and they tell me that I'm a passive Facebook user. I mean, why is that? I spend an hour on it every day. What they actually tell me is, they say, my friends tell me that they are the ones who initiate a discussion. They put a tagline, they leave it there, and I typically comment on it. I never start a discussion at all. Then we actually see how Facebook is being used. I'm very active and I keep seeing it and it's so enjoyable to read. Somebody puts in a discussion point and people start commenting on it. If you actually see anything that you write on, you say that Salman Khan looks good, you'll have 40 comments. I've seen at least 10 comments on anything that anyone would mention about any particular topic. So what is happening today is not a shortage of advice. The point today that I actually see is there is a lot of advice coming in. So a person should not be taking up CFP thinking that I can give him advice. It's not that. The reason that we're all taking CFP, people who are practicing, that's because a lot of advice is coming. How do you know which is right? At least if he can do a CFP, he can attempt to be a little more knowledgeable than the guy who's not that knowledgeable. I don't know whether it will appear to you, whether you can perceive that a person who's done CFP is a little more knowledgeable, but at least if he can establish some kind of a symbol, a standard, probably among those people in that standard, you can try and count on someone. And then the problem is when you have a standard, there will be many standards that will come in, then you'll have to pick and choose among the standards. Anyway, that's the perspective that I currently have and we are all working towards this. I'll start my presentation and then take you through certain very important points that probably are linked to some of the presentations that have already been made. See, the way that I'll approach careers in financial planning is not by telling you the jobs that are currently available. It's a very wrong way to do it. What are the jobs that are available here and there? There's a senior financial planner. There's an AVP financial planner. That's not the way I'd like to approach it. What is the role of a financial planner? What is the scope of his work? What value addition can he create? If we are sure about that, if you can understand what that is, you can figure out what kind of roles a person can get, whether companies need him or not, and what kind of companies will need him. we'll have clarity on that. That's not an issue. But I will start out with the scope of work and value addition of a financial planning exercise. I've looked at two different approaches. One is a fee-based approach, exactly what Mr. Raman has said. He's actually done my presentation in a fee-based approach, but I have put in something. Transaction or fulfillment-based approach is what I believe Sanjeev is going to talk on. That's the hint that I've got. But I will do something from my side. Then requirements of the standard and CFP as a standard. We'll start with the scope. Next. Okay. Financial planning, the profession as such is basically a listening. You need to be a very good listener. I think if you are inviting a lot of women to come into this profession, I think it's a great thing, because I think their skills of listening are a little more fine-tuned than most men. So I think they should do well. The first thing is to actually gather data from clients, put this in, and somewhere along you'll have to present it back to him. The data that you're gathering about him, basically all financial data, you can put in some emotional goals that he's emotionally and sentimentally attached to, but finally whatever data that you're gathering has to be something about his financial life as such. That is what you can typically gather, and you can try presenting to him back. You'll have different formats, different ways of doing it, but that's basically what a financial planner does. He puts the entire financial life of an individual, he collects the data, puts it. What he will additionally do, the emotional elements are the typical financial needs and goals. Some of them are the requirements like needs. Some of them are sentimental, some goals that he has. Some of the goals are things that he will have to go through because of pressure from people around him. And then we try to provide a workflow to achieve them. Some kind of an idea, some kind of a solution to give him hope that this can be managed and corrective action can be taken. And the last one is typically how the book defines financial planning. So the next slide. So the scope of financial planning, if you say a comprehensive financial planning, it could entail any of the above. It could be risk management, next, tax planning, could be education planning, could be retirement planning, investment management, cash flow management, estate planning. These are the typical areas that you have. One step we have. See, these are the typical areas that we have. You could do a lot in each one of these areas. Each one of these areas you can take it, split it open, there's a lot that can be spoken about. And in the presentation that I'm going to take you through, I'm going to speak about some of them. Because I think Mr. Raman addressed some of the issues like investment management. You know the difference between a portfolio manager and a financial planner. You can't go to a financial planner and say, tell me which stock I need to take. He is more concerned with your life. The products are secondary. If he can advise you on your risk appetite, probably what is the risk that he's observed, what is the risk that he recommends for you while you go for an investment, I think he will have done his job. Beyond that, he is slightly digressing from the role of a financial planner. We'll actually see the role of these areas. I'll actually show you what a financial planner does. I don't want to stress too much on these things because I see a lot of young people and it will be more like theory that I'm giving to you all. Let's go to the next one. See, I'm going to essentially talk about the fee-based approach at the moment. The fee-based approach, let me break the surprise, is essentially a route of entrepreneurship. Next slide. A fee-based approach in very simple terms means the person who is paying your fee, he is your client. Somebody comes to you and says, I want an exercise conducted. He pays you money. That is your only client. You can't say that my client is the person I'm working for. The person who's eventually giving the product to this person is my client. It can't work on those lines. There is only one person paying the money. This has to be revealed to that person who's giving you. That is your client, pays you the money. You tell him how much he's paying. You also tell him that there's nobody else who's paying. Only then your advice is unbiased. You can't claim to be independent and unbiased and say that you're tied up with a couple of insurance companies and mutual funds and then say that I'll suggest a good one. See, a fee-based approach is more like you're preparing for your marriage, you like to buy a good dress, you have an image consultant and you have an actual retail store. A lot of us actually go to the retail store and say, what can I have? I like to look like this. Typically what the person in the store will do, whatever he has, he'll give you 8 options. You can look like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. If you say this is what I want to look like, he'll fit in one of those 8 to look like what you want to look like. That is typically what happens when you're tied up with a product. An image consultant, a lot of people go for an image consultant these days. I keep reading about it. An image consultant is someone, before your marriage, if you're planning to buy a good dress, you go to him. He actually understands what image you want to portray in that marriage, what is your personality,